Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna here. Basically, we are discussing on the topic that is education. Education. Basically, we are discussing on the topic that is future creation. Future creation. Basically, we are discussing on the topic that is India account. And India account. Basically, we are discussing SBI account, Amazon account, and after 2 days, basically, the earthquake is going to happen. That topic actually we are discussing. In this, basically, we discussed lava data. Lava data means lava creation, and that is the future creation. That basically we discussed. One person basically asked the question here. Sunil, basically, one thing do you know basically? In this world basically how many seasons are there, how many seasons data are there? Ice season data is there, rain is there, hot is there, then the cold is there, then the tsunami data is there, then the tufan data is there, that is the then storm data is there, then the ole data is there, then the sometimes basically the rain also come, then basically the sometime white rain comes, then the sometime basically the stone basically comes from the sky. What is this everything here basically? We are not able to understand basically. And here the main thing is, for example, this only few people basically might be knowing. For example, in India basically, always till now basically, when the world basically has started, till that time and the current generation basically which is ongoing, always in one city basically, rain basically is falling. Always basically. It might be Cherrapunji, it might be Tamil Nadu, it might be Kerala, it might be in any of the state basically. This is record basically. One person basically told that basically why basically it's like that. Yeah. And in this world basically always rain basically falls. Always ice basically gets fall in any of the one country. And in one country basically it's always hot basically. Climate is basically handled. Always basically in some country basically tufan basically is always ongoing. So one person basically asked the question. Each country basically gets something basically that in that country basically always this is going to happen in any of the places. So what is that basically? That is first thing basically. That basically we are going to discuss. Why basically it's like that? Then basically one of the person told them in Russia basically always ice is there. Sometimes basically rain basically get falls. But rain basically very rare basically happens. And that is the change of climate effect. That is the change of climate event. So that is also different. That is basically not a big issue. Basically. Here, that type of thing basically is not the issue. Here, the thing is basically which we are discussing it. What is actually this? Is this basically somebody is verifying something basically? For example, the 100 crore child which is going to happen, is it that connected with something basically? 1 lakh condition basically which has created by Bill Gates, is he basically doing something verification? Because 1 lakh condition basically he have to dump to somebody. He have to dump to some body na basically. He have to dump that 1 lakh condition into some bodies. Then only basically it's going to attract that 100 crore child. Here basically by Bill Gates basically have 1 crore child. So what is this everything? Is it like this basically that for example from cities basically human needs basically are getting created. For example, one from Assam basically Cherrapunji, the Palak basically is getting created from Cherrapunji energy basically, not from land basically. Cherrapunji energy basically, Cherrapunji city energy, the chemicals basically are taking that energy data and then basically they are producing chemicals, Palak. So is it basically this thing basically is which is ongoing that is connected with that basically? What is that basically? So basically you can't say anything basically in this world. Anything possibilities are there basically. Reason basically I will tell you. One person told that basically in 12th science, basically whenever basically the 12th science basically school basically gets open. For example, one tool 12th science basically school is opened in that area. They have to take the permission of lab. They have to take the permission. Before taking permission with the government, they can basically start the science lab. That is not possible. And government here, the main thing is government basically uh, keeps track of each and every creation basically which is happening in the city. That how basically they track, that is basically we are not supposed to know. Why? Because that is common thing basically. Construction material basically. That is the one thing. So from that basically they track. But here tracking behind the what is the main issue basically. Here basically one thing is the school basically is going to start the 12th standard. Before that basically school might have created basically. So from that only basically they started tracking. They know that also here the 12th science basically is going to happen. So there basically the lab is going to start. Lab basically is going to start whatever formulas basically is there in the books basically. In that book basically, for example, A equal to B1 plus B2. Just taking as an example, basically, I don't know any formula. Just taking as an example. C1 equal to C2. C1 equal to C3 plus C4. But here, the books basically has not added the government formula. Whenever basically C1 plus C1 equal to C2 plus C3 or basically C3 plus C4 basically comes, plus basically government data basically has not added. So whenever that basically data basically gets generated into the environment, immediately the plus government data always comes. That basically we have already. This is the normal thing basically who are watching this video. This whole thing basically are normal for. For if government is also watching, they also basically will think that we also have never thought this type of thing basically. That anybody can track this basically. So that is basically different thing basically. That is basically different thing basically. So government basically told that basically government formulas are also basically there. So the season basically which is getting connected to each and every countries. For example, in India basically always rain basically is falling. In Russia basically always ice basically is falling. So what is that basically? There might be some reason. Is that basically connected with this 1 lakh condition of Bill Gates? Or basically it is connected with the 100 crore with child basically which is going to happen? Or basically is it like that 1 lakh condition basically which is going to dump to the each and every body parts? Or is it something else basically? Or the is it like that basically the lava company basically which are doing the processing basically inside the land basically inside the land basically they are connected with some satellites and satellite basically are doing this everything. Is it like that basically? Suddenly basically the climate change and basically earthquake happens, tsunami happens, then the rain falls and the high basically lower lava basically get blast, or each and everything basically happens suddenly basically. Why basically it's like that? Lots of people says that it is suddenly achanak hua, but it's not suddenly basically. Don't basically see that basically it's a suddenly basically. Government gets each and every information 1 or 2 weeks before. Satellite group basically passes the information, but government is not passing. That is different thing basically. Then basically government says that तूने tax भरा था. That basically the government will say basically. So they basically passes this information who are actually paying the tax. That is also different thing. So here basically each and every people basically think of themselves. That is also different thing. So here topic is what basically. Suddenly basically nothing happens basically. That basically you have to always keeps in mind basically. But here the thing is everywhere basically something basically is connected. For example, in India, always basically rain falls in one of the city. Always that is a record basically. Why basically it's like that? In this world, that means entire world is connected with each other. From that, basically, you have to make clear one thing, and that is very dangerous. That is very, very, very dangerous for the world, basically. But from where this everything is controlled, that basically we have to find. When basically you will find this, that time basically you will say that basically, yaar, kahan hai? That basically you are going to say, where are we basically? Where are we basically? That you are going to say basically. Because in this world basically, not a single person can track that basically. So that is also different thing basically. Like this basically the government is telling that basically in book basically whatever formulas are written, in that basically you have to add our formulas also like this. Our formula also you have to add. So this connects to like that also basically, but that is also different thing. That is basically we know that basically that government basically is handling the formulas. School basically is that, well science basically is there, and the he basically in school basically it's like that. Then the NASA and ISRO basically are doing lots of R&D centers. How that would be connected? That means one person basically told that there are many satellite group basically they are connected with the governments because to reach up to NASA and ISRO, government basically can't reach from Earth planet. They can't reach to NASA and ISRO. Why? Because restrictions are basically there. Even any of the laser basically comes into the NASA and ISRO, they immediately tracks. So satellite group basically that means the government basically are connected with the satellite group basically. Set in the in the satellite group basically there are many governments basically who are connected basically. So assume that basically suddenly basically in Bahrain, that was Bahrain. Suddenly basically in Bahrain basically something basically happened which was not expected, but government know that basically. Why? Why basically it's like that? Because government formulas are always. So one person basically asked the question. Wherever basically the R&D centers basically are there, wherever basically the R&D centers basically are there, wherever basically the R&D centers basically are connected, their government basically data is always there. That is 100%. No? That is there basically. Then basically one of the person told that, "Sal- matlab, not supposed to say this everything basically. What government is heading there? They basically want to say that basically अगर हमको कुछ हुआ तो हम भी तुमको नहीं छोड़ेंगे. That basically they want to say to public basically. They basically want to say that only no, basically. Then why they are hiding it basically? That is the question. They want to say that basically if anything basically happens to us, then basically we will not leave you also. That basically government is telling like that basically. मतलब धमकी दे रहे governments. You can say like that also, and basically you can't say like that also. Why? Because there are many things basically which are basically very sensitive. If you will know this everything basically, you will never basically able to sleep also properly. So one of the person told that basically that means government people basically are not sleeping ever basically. Then basically what the prime minister basically is sleeping. Then basically the chief minister basically sleeping very easily basically. So one person basically asked the question. Each and every formulas basically which are connected. That basically just now you told that basically government's data basically are added. So from where basically that takes the data? Or basically, is it like that basically whenever the government basically adds that particular formula, they adds the career data of also basically of that person basically. For example, one person basically is MSc, BSc, 12th, or basically some R&D department basically is basically doing some R&D. They basically adds that person data also basically that you are basically going to be in this company. That is 100% sure, no basically. because governments are connected with set of private companies. They basically sends the data. So whenever basically that student basically gets out from the R&D center, BSc, MSc, wherever basically, the company basically immediately picks him basically. So that is basically government formula basically. That basically we are not supposed to have. That is basically government's what to say basically government's secret thing basically. Here basically we are not going up to that basically. So here thing is what the things basically which are connected climate thing basically. Climate thing basically. Climates each and every mosam basically that are connected up to what level basically. Because if you will say that basically, अरे भाई ये तो climate तो basically that are controlled by satellite group basically. Satellite group will say that basically sorry yeah basically we basically know that basically, but that is connected with galaxy. Group will say that basically that is connected with the planets to planets. So it will go very far basically. It will go very far. That's why I told basically, if you will ask this question basically, you will say that हम कहाँ हैं? Where we are basically. So government says that we are adding this formula basically. That is good also and that is bad also. That is good also and that is bad also. So that is one thing. Now basically point number another basically. That is 100 crore child is going to happen. 1 crore project basically is generated by Mumbai city. In that basically 10 crore project basically has generated. In 10 crore project basically they have told that basically Sunilar Nair generation is not going to start. That point basically. Now here the thing is, assume that basically when in this basically when the child got activated that time basically Sunil R Nair basically is not existing. Lots of people say sir हमने तो we have basically have your data basically, from that data basically we can do anything basically, but that is different thing basically. From that basically nothing is going to happen basically. So here the point is, one person basically told that 100 crore child is basically going to, here basically why this point is very dangerous basically, because each and every human basically are staying in this world basically for current generation which and the next generation which is going to happen. For that only basically they are doing the hard work. Companies, governments are doing hard work for what basically? That 100 crore child is going to come. And for that basically human needs basically we are preparing. And their ideas basically and each and every task basically they are going to do, we are basically preparing it. But here the question is, and this is connected to that season also, that always basically something basically happens in this world. So here basically that also connected here basically. Now basically see basically the chain. Lava basically data is processing. 100-year-old child basically process basically starting and in it's ongoing and ongoing. 10 crore basically project basically done basically. They basically are not connected with the lava data now. Why? Because they have given every data to the nuclear power company, energy company, and power company. They are doing the process. Now basically the child process basically power company told that basically now basically we are ready to take the child data basically here basically Bill Gates is telling that and the other companies basically are telling that basically we have added each and every conditions to human basically, so they are also ready to take their child data. Each and every jodis basically are mapped, this that each and everything basically that is also there. Now basically the data started processing. Here basically Sunil R Nair data came. In that basically Sunil R Nair generation is not there, and there basically the season data also basically are coming from the set planets. Example is Cherrapunji. There basically always rain basically falls. Russia always ice basically falls. UAE that basically their basically climate has been changed. They are telling that basically we want some other data now. Italy, France, like this basically many countries basically are there. So there are many countries basically that also you can say. So that is one thing basically. So here the point is what basically 100 crore child is going to happen. Now basically process started, Sunil Larna data is not there. So anything is going to happen. That time basically. What is going to happen? Anything is going to happen basically. I don't think basically anything is going to happen. Or basically anything is going to happen. Because my data does not exist. So in really basically my generation basically has not ended. Here basically one of the person told that after ending that Sunilar Nair generation basically, we have done Jashan basically. We have done party basically. That party, everything basically is going to connect to that lava data basically. Few singer basically came, they basically done Jashan. They basically sing the song. Everybody basically enjoyed their life basically. People telling that basically we enjoyed the life. That also basically is going to generate to that lava data. So anything is going to happen now. Anything is going to happen now. That 100 crore child is going to have. So lots of people say that the people basically who are into the iron creation, the factories, this, that, basically, what actually they are doing basically? They are doing this alone basically. After certain time, basically, the 100 crore child is going to happen. For that, basically, they are preparing the data. 1 crore, 1 lakh basically project, sorry, 1 lakh condition basically is of Microsoft, basically, Bill Gates basically. He is basically giving the data to these that companies basically, factories, this factories, building construction, these basically groups are basically taking that condition. Like this, the preparation basically is ongoing of the future basically, and the current basically, that is the people who are going to take the condition. So everything basically is connecting to what? The future data. That is what? 100 crore child. In that basically, as in that Sunil Larna data is not existing, so anything is going to happen. Anything is going to happen. Lots of people say that, भाई कुछ नहीं है that अगर कुछ if anything basically is going to happen, then basically why ended your generation basically. But that time basically they know this everything, that this is going to happen. This video. Lots of people say that hey, many less people only basically can view your video basically. But this everything is done basically. Now basically if you will watch this video, if you will not watch this video, nothing is going to happen basically. So one person told that basically IT industry basically have lots of project to do basically. Lots of project basically. This project basically just now I told basically Microsoft is going to add this 1 lakh condition. This whole data basically does not exist in the environment. That basically where basically they can dump the data basically. Because whenever basically you are going to add the future data, it's going to process basically. And servers are basically going to process. And servers basically are connected with the power companies, energy company and nuclear power company. So where basically you are going to process this data. And if you are processing future data, that is going to connect to climate and the current generation and the current environment also basically. So should we process this data or basically should not we process this data? That is question basically. In this basically they have already written that 100 crore child is going to happen. In this basically we have finished Sunilar Nair generation. So that is going to process basically. That is the future data. Few people says that basically we have taken that vehicle, we have created that vehicle so that basically it can be remembered basically. That his generation basically is ended. So that is basically already done. So anything is going to affect here basically. That is the question basically. Anything is going to affect here basically. Because see the chain basically, see the season change you see. That is the Mosam chain you see basically. Up to what level the chains basically are connected. So one person told that basically NASA and ISRO groups only basically can tell this. That also few people basically. Who knows that basically the satellite, for example, today basically satellite is going to launch to the Mars planet, but it has launched 2 3 weeks before basically. That group can say you tell basically. but in front of public basically today it has launched. So that is different thing basically. So you can just imagine basically. Few people says that we basically know everything, yeah, basically because we have the project of these that basically. Lots of people says that हम हमने तो project बनाया हुआ है. We have created everything. We have created future basically. That Sunil Rai generation we have finished. So that is basically different thing. So one person basically told that basically up to what level the things are connected here. Government says that basically we have not in the book basically we have not added our formula. So whenever basically is going to add this R&D, that time basically we are going to add our formulas basically with the help of the private companies. That means whenever MTech person basically is doing some R&D, in that school basically set of one private companies are connected. They basically decides the future of that particular child, that particular boy basically. That time only they decided. Both. So that is also different thing. That is the government stuff basically. They say that basically we have 190 crore basically. How basically we are going to handle basically day or night basically? That is not possible. So that is basically different thing. That basically we are not touching basically. And that basically might be the batch processing basically. In IT industry, it's called as a batch processing data. That is their batch processing. So here again basically point in that is how basically things are each and every things are connected. Lava data that is 100 crore, which is keeps on processing, keeps on processing. If processing happening basically, right? Somebody is doing something basically. Otherwise, basically data is going to process. I don't think basically the process will happen. So that is also different thing. So that is also different thing. Because there is no answer basically. You will not able you will if you are doing some if you ask if you are basically searching something basically you can basically get in Google. If you are searching anything, then if you don't find anything Google, you will go to libraries, you will find everything basically. But this type of thing basically you can't find also. The governments are adding the formulas. That basically is nothing basically some in books basically they have not written basically. Government basically data they have not added. Notes in notes basically. They are not written like that basically. They will not. Why basically they will add basically like this? Why they will add? That is also question basically. Because this connection negative and positive both side basically. So that is also one thing. So in this video basically we discussed lots of things. Again basically point to 1 lakh companies of Mumbai city, 10 crore projects creating by Mumbai city, 100 crore child basically which is going to happen. In that basically Sunil Arna generation basically ended by the groups. The conditions basically that is the 1 lakh condition which is added by the Microsoft. That basically is the condition. That adding process is basically ongoing. In that basically Sunil Lab Nair generation basically somebody ended. So anything is going to affect basically for the future basically. That is the question. That basically we have asked in many videos basically. That is the question basically. Anything is going to affect. Now here the question is 10 crore projects basically which are getting created. In that basically we saw that one of the conditions basically the car company conditions basically which is given by the Microsoft that you Microsoft basically never comes in front. He basically given to Accenture. Accenture told that basically we are adding this condition in car company, that is this number car model basically which is going to launch into the market basically, that is going to add this condition into the lava, and that basically data is going to process inside the lava basically. For that basically they are preparing the data. So for that basically they told that basically we have created one CRM system. Accenture basically told we have created one CRM system, and these are the data. So just imagine basically how the things are basically connected. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about this topic.